Hey, I'm Meggie Kay. So today I wanted to talk a little bit more about the different countries that I have lived in. So I noticed that all 5 of the countries I've lived in outside of Canada have been under very different circumstances. So if you're interested in living abroad but you're not exactly sure how to go about it or what are the different ways to live abroad, maybe this video can give you some ideas. So I'm gonna go through each country that I lived in outside of Canada, how I got there, why I left, a little bit about it, and kind of just give like really general overviews of these different countries I've lived in. Also, before I get into this, I just wanted to add a little disclaimer. Just because I don't want to live in a country doesn't mean I don't like the country. I have seen that in comments on YouTube before when I say that, like, you know, I don't want to live in this country. They're like, why are you hating this country? Why are you being so negative? We all have different values and there's different things we look for in a home and where we want to live, and that's different for everyone. And just because I don't want to live in a country doesn't mean I don't like the country, doesn't mean I didn't enjoy my time there. So just chill. Chill a little bit. So the first country that I ever lived abroad in was the USA. I was 6 years old and my father's company moved him to a plant in the US, specifically Jacksonville, Florida. That's where I lived. We were there for 2 years and we moved back to Canada because of my father's job. So since I was 6 years old, obviously I didn't have any say in the matter. My opinions and thoughts as a 6-year-old weren't really considered, probably for good reason. Who listens to a 6-year-old when it comes to big life decisions? But I can say that I really didn't enjoy living in the US. I have a lot of like really bad memories from living there. And while I have visited the US multiple times since then, and my father actually currently lives in the US, and there's other places around the US I would like to visit, living there, no, I would never want to live in the US. You know, I'll always have some kind of connection to the US since my dad lives there, and obviously I would visit, but it would have to take incredible circumstances, and it had have to be very specific and very special. Like if I married an American, or if there was a job offer in the US and I physically couldn't do that in any other country, and it's like the most amazing job ever, then I would consider moving to the US. But as like just personal choice, I wouldn't want to live in the US. That wouldn't be just like general choice for me. Okay, moving on to the next country. When I was 17, Rotary Youth Exchange led me to Germany. So I lived in a very, very small town in Nordrhein-Westfalen, so like the western side of Germany, and I lived with 3 different host families. I attended a German high school, even though none of it counted because I had already graduated high school in Canada. Basically, I did this youth exchange as a gap year. While living in Germany, I discovered very, very quickly that Germany was not the place for me. There was no way I would live in Germany long term. You know, I enjoyed my year in Germany and I made some really good friends, but I've talked about this with a few people online who have spent, you know, significant time in Germany as well. There is something about German culture that you either really get or you really don't. Like, there's no in between. You either get German culture or you don't. And I can't specify exactly what it is about German culture. And the people I've talked to, they're like, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but there is something with German culture. It's either like, yes, this is amazing, this is perfect, this is the place for me, or it like really, really isn't. And I just happen to fall on that isn't side. So I enjoyed my year, but by the time my year was over, I was very ready to leave Germany. I would, however, and I've thought about this, I would love to go back and visit again. I'd love to see my host families, well, a couple of my host families. There's one host family I didn't get along with very well, But I'd love to see my host families again. I'd love to see my friends again and revisit this tiny little town. So yeah, I would love to go back and visit, but I wouldn't like live there again. So yeah, that was my time in Germany. So the next country I lived in was Singapore. Now, I moved to Singapore during my third year of university, and this was just a regular exchange program with my university. There wasn't a special name or anything like that, like my Rotary Youth Exchange, which anyone can apply to. It's Rotary, it's an international organization. This was just a exchange program my university had. So I spent one semester, about 5 months, living in Singapore, studying at Nanyang Technological University. Now, I loved Singapore. Singapore was amazing. I absolutely loved it. It was a city. It was well connected to other countries. I could easily take really cheap weekend trips to Thailand and Bali and Hong Kong, and it was great, especially for someone in their early 20s. It was a fantastic location. But yeah, I loved Singapore. It was so great for me. If my life ever brings me back in that direction, if I ever have the opportunity to move back to Singapore, I would definitely take up that offer. And yeah, Singapore's great. Loved it. So after I finished university, I worked for a year to save up money for a working holiday, and I ended up doing my working holiday in New Zealand. Now, this is a super amazing, great opportunity for anyone. It's usually under 30 or under 35 depending on the country, and you have to look into your own country to see where you can go for working holiday visas. But as a Canadian, New Zealand is a great option for working holidays, and that's what I did. I spent 1 year in New Zealand. So New Zealand is an amazing country. I loved my time there. I saw amazing landscapes and I got to do amazing things, and it was actually really, really great, but I was really ready to leave by the time my year was up. New Zealand was just a little bit too isolated for me. Like, well, that was one of the things I really loved about Singapore, is that I could easily take trips to other countries, where in New Zealand, that's a bit hard to do because there's not a whole lot of countries around New Zealand. I mean, I did get the chance to go to Fiji on my way home. I like stopped off in Fiji and I loved Fiji. That was a great trip. But living there long term, I probably wouldn't be able to travel outside of the country very often. As well, New Zealand doesn't really have any kind of like big cities, and I'm a bit of a city girl. So like even Auckland isn't really that big of a city. So for me, you know, living up my 20s in New Zealand wasn't really something I wanted to do. However, I would love to go back and like retire in New Zealand and have like a little house out in the countryside and like, I don't know, have sheep or something. Live that New Zealand dreamer. But seriously, New Zealand's a great country, just not somewhere for me right now in my life. Finally, the fifth country that I have lived abroad in is Japan, and I am currently in Japan. So while I was living in New Zealand, I got the idea of teaching English abroad. And from there, I looked at different options of different countries I could teach in, and it led me to applying for the JET program and getting in and living in Japan, and that's my current situation. So if you are interested in teaching English abroad is a great opportunity. It's a great way to see the world. Though I will say that please be interested in teaching and not just do it because it's an easy way to live abroad. People who just like want to go abroad and they teach English because it's easy, it irks me. Please be interested in actually teaching, and you know, your kids and whatnot. You're gonna spend a lot of time with them. You're gonna spend a lot of time at work if you're working abroad. So please be interested in the job you're doing, at least mildly. So yeah, I am still in Japan, so I can't really speak about leaving Japan or the factors that led to me leaving Japan, since I haven't yet. So yeah, if you're interested in my experiences living in Japan, I have lots of videos about that since I've been making YouTube videos my entire duration of living in Japan, so you can check those out if you're interested. So yeah, that is a general overview of hows and whys of me living abroad so many times. And if you're interested in moving abroad, maybe this gives you some idea of how to approach things. And I have made a few videos going in detail about different processes for my exchange and working holiday and stuff like that. So I'll link those videos in the description if you want some more information about, you know, details on the process. This is a very general overview video. So yeah, that's it for this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe because I'll be back with another one soon.